Good afternoon, everybody. Today is June 25th. I'm calling the Board of Commissioners special meeting to order at 12:04. Will the Deputy Clerk please call the roll?
Commissioner Weinstein?
Here.
Commissioner Andrews?
Here.
Vice Mayor Hodges?
Here.
Mayor Black?
Present.
Madam Mayor, if I may, just a couple of items. We're still obviously waiting for the candidate. He's probably just finishing up an interview with another group. But we've been informed that Commissioner Douther is unable to attend the interviews this afternoon and will not be present for the scheduled meeting for this evening. So in consultation with the city attorney, we both believe that it's prudent to cancel tonight's meeting in order for the balance of the Board of Commissioners to be here for tonight's meeting. So I wanted to bring that to your attention. And then the items, the two applications that you've received for appointments to the Budget Committee, staff is requesting that you amend the agenda to allow for the board to select one of these two applicants at the end of the meeting, merely from the standpoint is we won't have a quorum of the Budget Committee because one of the members is going to be out of the country. So we will only have two members of the Budget Committee. So staff is requesting that the board select one of the two candidates that you've been proffered their application. And yes, we're postponing the evening meeting to July 1st, Monday at 6 p.m.
I can't be here Monday, July 1st at 6 p.m., so let's have the meeting tonight. It's scheduled, everybody knows about it. We got the same amount of people that'll be here then that'll be here now, so let's roll with it. Come on, this is getting carried away, guys. Can we have a vote whether to cancel it? I make a motion to keep the meeting as is.
I'll second.
Any discussion?
Shall I call a roll?
Please call the roll.
Okay. Commissioner Weinstein?
I want to cancel it till July the 1st at 6 o'clock.
So you would vote no?
No.
Commissioner Andrews?
Yes?
Vice Mayor Hodges?
Yes.
Mayor Black?
No. So it failed.
If you can't be here at the first, what day can you be here?
Since that motion failed, is there another date that the Board of Commissioners proposes?
The motion didn't pass to cancel it, though. We didn't make a motion to cancel the meeting. This is a recommendation by the city manager to cancel the meeting. We haven't made a motion to cancel the meeting.
We had a motion and a second, and we voted.
I understand, but we have a meeting scheduled for tonight.
Yes.
There needs to be a motion made to cancel the meeting for tonight. That's what needs to be done. There's a meeting scheduled. If we have a meeting scheduled, there needs to be a majority of the board that cancels the meeting.
City Attorney, can you please tell me, since I called the meeting, can I cancel the meeting?
Let's retain some civility. I'll need a moment to look at the charter and how meetings are set. I'm sorry. If we could just remain calm, let me take a look at the charter. I understand the question. Oh, let's see. Remember what section we're at, Jonathan, on meetings? Section 4.5 of the Charter, 4.5A, meetings. The Board of Commissioners shall meet regularly at such times and places as determined by the Board of Commissioners. The Board of Commissioners may schedule other regular meetings as it deems necessary in accordance with its established rules of procedure. Special meetings may be held at the call of the mayor, comma, by a majority of the commission members, comma, with no less than 24 hours' notice in writing to each member and the public. Any such notice shall state the subject to be considered at the special meeting, which shall be restricted to the items specified in the notice. So I think the operative sentence there is special meetings may be held at the call of the mayor by a majority of the commission members with no less than 24 hours' notice. So I think the special meeting at the call of the mayor, and then you would have a vote of the majority, and that would establish when your meeting would be. So mayor, it will be up to you to pick a day or a time, and then the board would vote and see if there's a majority that are available for that particular day.
Excuse me, Ralph, could you read again that part about the cancellation? Was there a time frame on the cancellation of a meeting?
I don't see anything here about cancellation. I think the charter, as far as I can see, is silent on canceling meetings. This is a special meeting at the call of the mayor by the majority of the commissioners. So the mayor, you would have to pick a date, and the majority of the commissioners would have to vote for that.
All right, well, then I'll say we'll move it to the next day, the 2nd.
I'm sorry, what'd you say?
I would like to move it to the July 2nd then, rather than July 1st.
Is there a second?
Well, I'm not going to make a second because I was going to ask, was the 26th or the 28th available to anyone tomorrow night or Friday night?
Friday night's out for me.
Okay, you couldn't be there, okay. Okay, then I will second that motion
Well, excuse me.
I'm sorry.
I'm not sure about this, but it seems to me that since I can call a special meeting, it's not something we need to vote on. It's just we
It
need to
says,
get a consensus.
Special meetings may be held at the call of the mayor, comma, by a majority of the commission members, comma, with no less than 24 hours' notice in writing to each member and the public. So it's a bit ambiguous how it is written, but it sounds like that the mayor would make the call for a meeting, but you would need a majority of the commission members to approve that date. Which makes sense. You can only act by a vote of 3 commissioners on most
Okay.
items.
All right, well, let's continue then. We have a motion? We have a second?
Yes, I will second the motion to have the meeting that was scheduled for 6 o'clock this evening to be rescheduled for July the 1st at 6 o'clock.
I think we did that one, and that one failed too. So we're looking at July 2nd now, I think.
Well, I'll go for July 2nd. Make a motion to schedule a meeting for July the 2nd at 6 o'clock. I'm open.
I'll second the motion. Any discussion? Will the city clerk please call the roll?
Commissioner Weinstein?
Yes?
Commissioner Andrews?
No.
Vice Mayor Hodges?
No.
Mayor Black?
Yes.
Madam Mayor, if I may, you do have a meeting that is scheduled on Thursday, June 27th at 6 p.m. to select the candidates for city manager. So that is an option if the board wants to consider it for Thursday at 6 p.m. But I think is that a conflict with the city attorney's schedule?
Yeah, I can't be here Wednesday, Thursday, or Friday. Tom Gonzalez may be able to be here. I don't know, I haven't talked to him. I mean, you could try to go ahead tonight if you like.
No.
I believe
Well,
the
since the
chart, I
meetings are
believe
at-
the charter says if we have a quorum, then
Is
the
the-
meeting should go ahead.
Well, Charter Section 4.5 says the meeting is at the call of the mayor. So if it's the mayor's pleasure, the mayor, you could cancel the meeting and make another call, and we could find a date and a time in the future to hold that here. We don't have to decide it tonight. It would just be re-advertised anyway. So you could just make a motion or at your own call that the meeting is canceled.
So what you're saying is I just call another meeting at a later time?
Yeah, you could cancel tonight's meeting, and at some later time, we'll call another meeting and try to get a vote of the commission. You'll be meeting various times between now and July 1st, and we can add that scheduling item to an agenda where you could look at your calendars and find out who's available when, including myself and the city manager and the city clerk.
So you,
Find a date that everyone's available. It's kind of hard to do it without having everyone here. We only have two, you have four people here, and you actually need a tiebreaker vote to get anything done, it sounds like so.
all right, so I guess now, at this point, I would say I'd call the special meeting for following the picking of the candidates on Thursday, following the 6 o'clock meeting.
I won't be here, I can't be here.
Oh, won't Tom Gonzalez be here?
I don't know, I'd have to
Oh.
call him and find out. It's in the middle of a meeting, it's tough for me to
All
call
right, well,
him.
let's find that out when he's available then. Or
Why
you.
don't you go ahead and cancel tonight's meeting, and then
Okay.
we'll worry about the rest later.
All right, so tonight's meeting is officially canceled then,
Okay.
okay?
I will
And I
do
think
notice.
we did want to note, I don't remember if Jonathan mentioned this, but today's interviews are being recorded, so the commissioner that's not here can listen to the recordings or watch the recordings. I believe they're video recordings, to become educated on the selection for city manager, and hopefully still be able to vote on that, even though he's not here today, to watch them in person.
That is correct. As the city attorney stated, the meeting is not being live broadcast. It's being recorded, and as soon as it's concluded, the meeting's concluded, it will be available on the website for folks to be able to view the responses from the candidate. The intent behind that was just to ensure that the questions are not provided to any candidates in advance of their interview.
Okay.
Donna, there will be coming up in the meeting agenda here in a minute.
All right, moving forward then. Floor is now open for public comment. Just remember to address the commission, speak directly into the microphone.
Robert Preston, 425 South Bayshore Drive, Madeira Beach. It is beyond me why the mayor wants to fire the city clerk because she doesn't fit. It is of my opinion that the mayor doesn't fit, not the city clerk. Can you imagine if you would have said to Jonathan Evans, he doesn't fit? What does that mean? That can go a whole bunch of different directions. What is doesn't fit? You don't like truth to power? You think that you're above truth and honesty and clarity? Is that the reason that you want to terminate somebody? It's pretty sad. The person that doesn't fit is you, Maggie. You're the one that doesn't fit in this community. Thank you.
Ann Bunting, 13230 and 13212 Boca Ciega Avenue. And I do think you fit, Mayor Black, and I think you've done a tremendous job, and support you completely. The reason I'm here is for two reasons, well, one reason mainly. At the May 28th Commissioners' meeting, there was an item on the agenda proposing changes to Madeira Beach Ordinances 8 Special Magistrate. Under Section 2503E, it proposes adding the following wording concerning matters that may be appealed to the magistrate, quote, "except those decisions requiring professional certification or licensing," end quote. So this language is unclear. What type of professional certification or licensing? Does this mean that an appeal can't be made on a decision that the building inspector made, or on the city attorney whose opinions may be wrong and should be able to be appealed to the magistrate in front of a public hearing? So I just want to say that I think there should be some more clear definition about what Director Portal means. Andrea told me about the tapes, the live tape, and it seems that she has in mind some other particular situations concerning things like licensing for flood management or whatever, but it's not clear from this wording, and I just want to make sure that a person, an aggrieved person, would still be able to have an appeal from a decision of the building inspector or other city official. That's it.
Does anybody else wish to speak? Public comment is now closed. And we go forward with the interviews with the candidates. City Manager.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. If I can have Mr. Bonner, I think he's in the audience. Mr. Bonner, if you can take a seat at the staff presenter table. Pick one. They're both hot seats. Madam Mayor, just for the public's edification, I will say just a couple introductory remarks. I've worked with the Human Resources Coordinator to develop questions for the purposes of the City Manager public interview. The candidates today will all answer the same questions. I will be asking the questions, and then after I conclude with each question, I will allow for the board to provide any follow-up questions that they may have to that. You have copies of the actual interview questions on the dais, and please note that those notes that you place on that interview sheet will be collected, and they are public record. Secondly, the candidates are also interviewing with executive management and the supervisory team, as well as getting a tour of the city. Once those interviews are concluded, you'll also get a copy of that information for the purposes of looking at the entire body of work that these folks went through today. So without further ado, Madam Mayor, if I may ask the first question?
Certainly.
Okay. Mr. Bonner, good morning, or good afternoon.
Yes, good afternoon.
First question, please provide a brief recap of your professional credentials and your work experience related to the opportunity before you this afternoon.
The credentials, academically, I'm a graduate of the University of Florida, Webster University. I own, possess, and earned an MBA. I'm an ICMA credentialed manager, have been appointed and worked in various capacities for the League of Cities. I served on the Taxation and Finance Committee. In Georgia FGOA, I served as a resident counselor, meaning the regional. Have a broad set of experiences that are closely aligned with the experiences Madeira Beach is having right now and what they'll be going through. The consistent theme that I've got and background in, which fits best for y'all, is this community is a transitioning community. You know, the undercurrents that are here are strong, and they're going to have to be managed. And how you folks manage them and how your public administrator manages is going to be key to the successes or the failures thereof. I've been in very social diverse areas. I've been in very large organizations. I've been in very small organizations. And the key thing that I've taken from every one of them is they're good people everywhere you go. And you just have to nurture those folks and get them to contribute at the best level they can. So my background is been in public administration and in the private sector. I have a large construction background behind me that fits the work that is before y'all. But you also have some organizational issues. You're going to have to keep developing people. You're going to have to look at succession planning. I didn't mean to throw that at you. But you're going to have to look at these things going forward. Your community is changing, and it's changing today, right out in front of us. And so managing those expectations that you may have and what the constituents may offer to you are the things that have been most successful with. But I have not had a single success by myself. Every assignment and every reference that I've given you or you can check on about me will tell you that I work through staff. And I've been very successful in getting staff to join me in capturing the vision y'all have and in starting to implement it. It's one thing to say, yes, we understand it and we can do it. The next thing is to implement it. And that's when it becomes more difficult on the elected officials as well as the appointed. I've been blessed in that regard, and I'm very pleased that this is my second visit here, and some of the same folks are here. I spoke earlier about being able to read your financial statements, or the analysis that I bring and the financial background. I mean, that's probably my longest suit for y'all. I think my biggest contribution is going to be organizational development, though. So I'm very pleased that I've been able to follow your statements. I've been able to find the histories I was looking for, and I've been able to connect the dots from the last time I was here to today and where I think you're going to be over the next several months.
Madam Mayor and board members, any follow-up? Okay. Next question. Tell us why you're interested in this position.
My interest is obviously, I'm back, but there's a very strong correlation between the work that I've done in the past and the work that is most motivating to me for what you're doing. I have a strong financial background. I have a very strong developmental background in terms of construction and the work that you have before you. So I think I can be successful based off of my experience of what you have before you, and I think that's appealing to me. There is that personal component, though. It fits me very well from the standpoint, as y'all know, I have one beach house. I'm not opposed to another one, but I seem to thrive in that environment. The coastal communities have something very unique, and it's very different. Just how nuts and bolts behave. It is very, very different that the coastal community has in terms of the work that we do. The other part of it is having to manage how the environment works here. The beach community is different. That's why a lot of people are here, and I'm saying that lovingly. I'm going on record now. It is a different set of needs. And you call it quirky, call it different, call it what have you, it is very appealing. So professionally and personally, it's a very desirable professional pursuit in a very desirable location.
Madam Mayor, board members, any follow-up? Madam Mayor, if you can turn your mic on.
How would you balance development to preserve a small-town community or small-town feel?
Mayor, I shared with you earlier, that's some of the undercurrents that we are going to have to manage. And I take my direction from the full voice of the elected capacity. Not one, not two, but the full voice. You give me my marching orders, and whether I agree with you or not, once I get my marching orders, then that's my brand new baby. And I will pursue it as if it was my idea originally and work towards implementing. They are things that I can bring to the table to help you strike that balance. But to put my heels in the sand, if you will, again, no pun intended, you're going to have to be flexible how we approach this. There's a lot of vested property development that you're going to have. And short of a miracle in court, you're not going to stop it. So how do we best account for it? Let's look to the future and see, what are the things it's going to take to support this development and to support the community sense, the feel of Madeira Beach. And it's going to be difficult. But with the leadership that we have from the elected capacity, the things that I heard this morning from the few folks I got to talk to, and I guess the background that I've done on my own due diligence, it's doable. But it's going to take a collaborative effort on the elected body, your staff, the developers, and the citizenry who are on one side or the other. But all things, and I'm going to quote somebody, it's Albert Spinoza, all things excellent are as difficult as they are rare. And that's where Madeira Beach is. You've got some excellent things here. The next ones are going to be more difficult, and they're going to be equally rare.
No other follow-ups? Next question. What are your 3 main professional goals for the next 5 to 10 years?
Personal, my professional goals.
Yes, 3 professional goals for the next 5 to 10 years.
I certainly want to find that organization that has the challenges that I've mentioned to you and in the locations that offer that environmental context I'm looking for. I'm looking for that organization is ready to take the next step, both from an ethics standpoint and from a footwork standpoint of the elected capacities. I'm certainly going to be able to do more with my family than I have in the last 3 to 5 years or my last 4 assignments. Today's a special day in the Bonner family. My wife retires today after 36 years in law enforcement. And I think I told some people earlier that if you see my 15-year-old son outside saying, "Hire Lyndon," it's because of the jet skis and the sailboats and a skating rinks and some friends he has just over there. So I think I'm looking for that balance of life that lets me go at the professional pursuit at the high energy, the high rate that it takes for me. I think I'm looking to be able to bring the elected officials to a level where you know as much about government as you can. And when you go through a budget with me, you will have a whole different perspective of how your city works, probably different than you have it now. That's the only way that I can ensure that you've got everything that I've got and I get your best thinking, because that's our policy. That's our marching orders. Those are our spending plans, and here's how you describe how you want the city to go, the direction you want it to pursue. So those 3 things fall in line with me. I certainly am going to continue in local government for a while. Certainly 5 to 10 years is a reach. I think the average city manager now is just under 2 years. The county administrators aren't faring that much better, and I did my job to with that rate just recently. So local government's a challenge. There's no question about it. The demands on government, personally and professionally, are extraordinary. You don't get to sit in y'all's chair without having some sense of what that's about. You don't get to be in this chair without having an appreciation of what you have to go through to do what you do. So those are 4 things. I'm sorry.
Any follow-up? Okay, next question. What are the most important characteristics and attributes of an effective manager? And of these attributes, which one best describes your character/demeanor?
There's a host of things that tie together, but I'll call it first, you've got to bleed it, and it's an advocacy. If you can't stand before the public and say that everything that you're doing is for that public good, you shouldn't be there. It is a difficult job at times to be able to say, here's what I have found, these are the things, this is my direction that I would recommend. So advocacy, absolute candor, not so much as a characteristic as a habit, providing equal information to all the stakeholders at the same time. And as my code of ethics jumps out to me, absolute honesty to the point of self-deprivation at times. This job puts you in a position where at times you're going to put yourself at peril. I say that looking you straight in the eye. So, candor, honesty, and advocacy, and getting those things that the decision makers need to make the best informed decision I can. Those are the attributes that I think most important right now.
Follow-up? Okay. Next question. What do you believe is the greatest challenge and greatest opportunity this position offers? I've alluded to the greatest challenge is going to be
finding that formula, calculus, of balancing what Madeira Beach is, what it was, and where it will be going. And there's a lot of factors that haven't been put in. You know, everything's got a cost to it. Everything is getting more expensive. And then some things that have been deferred are going to be a lot more expensive when we do get around to addressing them. So I'm of the mind that the best thing I can bring is to try to demonstrate to staff the walk that I walk. Same way I treat y'all with respect, I treat that with staff. That's an important part of walking the walk, you know, be the role model. And that end also comes with monitoring the expectations. This is what I expect staff to do. These are the instructions. If you didn't understand the instructions, tell me, let me make sure I have it straight. So as an administrator, public or otherwise, you have to have that communication. You have to be able to build that trust with your staff to understand and be able to appreciate everything that you are doing for us as elected officials, getting that vision, then get it implemented. Can't imagine.
Any
I
follow-up?
left a lot of open ones on that one.
Well, I just want to know what specific challenges you see facing you from Madeira Beach.
The ones I've asked about, the most concern is you have a substantial capital improvement plan in front of you. Construction, finance, there are my long suits. Those would be the things I think the elected officials would share the most with you. Having them funded, y'all have gotten some rude surprises recently, finding out some of your projects are costing more. Well, that shouldn't exactly been a surprise, but now we're going to have to figure those things out. But I want y'all to look at something else, and it is the bane of everything I've told elected officials for the last 15 years. There is a sustainability element that we don't do well in local government. You've got pipes in the ground that are much older. You've got lift stations that are in difficult repair. You've got roads that are going to need repairing. And yes, you've got bonds and you've got the ability to pay for these things you're going, but that's only part of it. We don't know everything that has been deferred. And you won't until you start digging in the ground or you start seeing these things that all of a sudden you're having to deal with not proactively. So I'm telling you, sustainability for me is the key word here. I'll spend a lot of time going back and looking at your infrastructure. I'll double check, I'll meet with engineers, I'll meet with the county. There's a lot of things that are currently on your table, your stormwater projects. The fact that they're not all funded through the program is a challenge. I read in the financial statements, the budget statement, I'm sorry, where the 2020, your letter, at that time wasn't funded. My guess is by the time 2020 hears and you have the funding that was available in 2020 from 2019 dollars, particularly in stormwater, you're going to find out that it's going to be fraught with overruns. Now, that personality trait where I said about advocates, I think you can talk with most contractors, is I may be difficult to work for in that regard, but it's advocacy. And adhering to the standards of the contract, first get the contract right, make sure they understand the work that's before them, and hold true to the line. You know, I cannot afford to let Madeira Beach or any jurisdiction continue to dole out money for things that should have been accounted for in your contracts or in the service. You know, we're a soft touch for a lot of things just because you're a municipality. You know, but I am an advocate, and I do play this game to demonstrate to you and the citizens that I will always be the advocate with every breath. And every contractor comes in, we'll know that. Every vendor that comes in will understand that what's my role? I want to make sure that the city's interests are looked at first and foremost.
All right. Any follow-up? All right. The city seeks to embark on a major infrastructure plan, and a general millage increase may be one of the mechanisms that is used to fund the debt service associated with the plan. What measures would you take to ensure the money is utilized judiciously, and how would you anticipate managing the projects to ensure that they come in below budget and on time?
Well, I put my pointy hat on and wave my wand and it just occurs. No, it doesn't. And commissioners, the amount of work you have for you is not insurmountable. But I said in my previous comment was, let's make certain you understand the agreements that you're getting into. What are you actually purchasing? What services? And can this vendor do it, these things? Because I've got a very extensive stormwater, water, sewer, wastewater, and reuse water public facility. I've got a large construction background. I've learned these lessons hard in how you have to pay attention to what the contract says and then hold the contractor accountable for these areas. Things happen that didn't know about, well, are they my fault or was it your due diligence? And there's going to have to be room in there to work. Certain things we didn't count on this rock here, well, okay, what is it going to be? But it's my contract administration experience and my construction experience, as well as the funding and grant mechanisms that you're going to have to go through and you're going to have to comply with to get the monies. The best news I can tell you as Madeira Beach is that you saw the budget that the governor signed. It's the large one in the state's history. I would turn the pages over to DEP and look at some other elements there. That may bode well for some of the projects you're doing in 2020, 21, and 22. I know I'm working with one group who's having a problem with a wastewater plant. So it is likely that SRF funding be expanded. It is certainly likely, as a demonstration of need, that you would qualify. Now, tell you the downside. The fact that you've had a constant millage rate, which is the lowest in the county at 2.2 for a number of years, that doesn't actually bode well for you. You've done the stewardship you should do. You want to keep your tax rate as low as you possibly can. Well, the first thing that the state legislature, or when they're discussing it, are going to say, well, you could up your millage. It's just that simple. Said by a state legislature who doesn't have to deal with citizens about their tax bill. So I would be cautiously optimistic that I believe Madeira Beach is well-positioned to be able to get additional funding for your infrastructure projects, and I'm not just talking about stormwater here. But we're going to have to make some steps that way, and is there an incremental tax increase on the horizon? I would have to think so at this point, not knowing what the governor's office or what is going to be turned loose from DEP and how that's going to be funneled. Water and wastewater projects are going to be the first funded. That's my opinion. I think stormwater will probably be the last one. Reuse is going to get a heavy hit. But you've got serious stormwater issues, and they've been around a while. And I've talked to a few citizens that have talked to you, meaning the elected bodies, for years about getting this subdivision done, about getting this thing put in. So if that's the case, then I think it's inevitable that you may end up having to face that raising the millage rate. But if you do, make it specific. Make it less painful. Let the residents and the business owners see the benefit that you're going to bring to them. This is what we're going to do. Are we going to get all the utilities underground? You are, but sometimes you're going to find out they're going to hate you for that, because when roads are tore up for 6 months and water needs to be flushed or the traffic is blocked, it becomes something on your phone call, and certainly next call is to me. So I think the millage thing is certainly possible. My biggest concern for you is making certain you look at your contracts and get the work you need. Have the engineering group be very exacting, and then implement the contract the way it was intended. And then stay out of it. You're going to have some strong advocacy people who are working for you. Let them do their job.
Okay. Follow-up? Okay. Next question. How do you monitor the success/progress of the team you lead?
I wrote in my submittal to you that my biggest contribution everywhere I've been has been increasing organizational and individual capacities. For me to have a measure where the folks who report to me have an index that I can say they're improving is really straightforward. I do regular evaluations. I'm pretty clear about what my expectations are. I follow the job descriptions. If any of those things are out of line, I certainly am amenable to going back and taking a look. Did I miscommunicate something? And if I did, let me correct that. But if I didn't, why weren't my expectations met, or why was not the task completed in that order? So the evaluation process is ongoing. Yes, you've got a periodic time you need to fill out the papers and check some boxes and give credible feedback to the employees. You've got a good crew. And I think that if you can provide that honest and constructive criticism, then you end up with a better employee. But you have to follow up with it too, okay? This is what we said last period, and you've done those. Is there remuneration? Possibly. Are the other quirks of making the city manager have fun? Yes, I do movie tickets, I do other things. But as much as anything, I will tell you, I think that working as a group has yielded better benefits for me than any money or any genius thing I may have come up with. I call that a concept of the band, and it's a metaphor from the music world. Very often, I will assemble managers from different backgrounds who may have not have been called on to serve in this capacity to work on a specific problem. Most recently, it had to do with layoffs, and so I brought some folks together, said, okay, here's what we're stuck against. Here are the issues. Y'all know the issues. Come up with some solutions that we can take to council, and let's put it in the budget. That in itself, valuing someone else's opinion who knows the city or the county better than most of the elected officials, was invaluable. They'd never been asked to participate in budget hearings. They'd never been asked their opinions. And that is the silver bullet from my administrative purposes. Valuing what they do, demonstrating that there is merit to doing a great job, and I think that is something that you folks have a springboard towards. You've got a good crew. Y'all been elected. Y'all have got some huge responsibilities. I've been paying attention. But I like your chances. If I didn't, I wouldn't be here.
Any follow-up? Okay. Describe your experience working with citizens from various cultural backgrounds. What approaches have you used to ensure adequate attention is given to the variety of needs of these groups?
I've worked in very diverse, both socioeconomically, culturally, ethnically, and have thrived there. Certainly North Miami Beach was an extraordinarily interesting place. It was the first place where I was a minority, and here I'm a Southern boy, and I enjoyed it. It turned out that I had never been around a Hasidic community, and that was a lot of fun for me. I'd never been around that majority of Haitian population or Cuban. Very diverse. I love the food. I love the times. I love the people that and that really was one of the highlights of North Miami Beach, was the cultural diversity. And that permeated the organization. So it was an excellent mirror for me to have a staff that I could enjoy the same cultural exchange that I had with elected officials. Now, how do we mitigate, or how do we address the issues of those various stakeholders that are ethnically or socioeconomically challenged, or somehow engaged with the ivory towers of a city hall or a city manager? It's pretty straightforward. Y'all will be able to predict me very quickly. I'm not that hard to figure out. I've got a rule book, it's called the City Code. I've got a moral compass, it's called my Bible. I've got a code of ethics that I've bound up to. And you won't find me diverting from that very often. And if I do, it was by accident. So you'll be able to predict my behavior. I think that is good currency to have with any human, regardless of their social strata or their ethnic background. I talk to everybody just about like I'm talking to you. Sometimes I ramble on a little bit more. But that goes a long way to diffusing a lot of the problems that would come about from people who have challenges with the city. And I think I shared this morning, these town hall meetings or that kind of forum where I can take a commissioner, a county commissioner, congressman, anyone, to those environments have always been beneficial. They haven't always been easy, and they've not all been fun, but every one of them was beneficial. I learned a great deal from some folks I talked to this morning, and I learned a lot of their questions. So having that texture available to me makes me a better administrator. So talking to people and removing the ivory tower component of what us good-looking city managers, bring to the job. All right. Way out of my lane on that one, okay. Notice the city manager didn't say anything with that.
I agree with you. No.
Yes.
Any follow-up questions? In a concise manner, please describe how you would develop and implement a strategic plan for the city of Madeira Beach.
Well, not to reinvent the wheel, it's been done a couple of times. I think the one I spoke to in my letter to you, it was January 2018, where a strategic plan was put before you. At this point, and if I'm the successful candidate, the first thing I need to make certain on is that do I have a very exacting understanding of where each of you as elected capacities are in that vision? Have we captured that collective vision correctly? Are the things we doing going to lead to the visions you have for the city of Madeira Beach? When I get that, then I can bring some things to bear that I may have that are unique gifts. What's the best way? What's the best timing on this? How best to approach this? So in the regard of making a strategic plan, I'm going to start off what's there. Same thing with your business. I think I said this a few years ago. What's your business model? Well, the first thing is do no harm, the doctor's creed. Take care of the businesses that are already here. They're already paying taxes. Make certain that we have the ability to support the infrastructure-wise and the infrastructure needs of the future that's coming, whether that's residential or business. So your plan, I would start with what you've got already. I'm not going to try to reinvent the wheel, but I'm going to ask y'all to reconcile what we have in hand. And it also involved the county's plan. We mesh, we touch, and it's important that we don't have any conflicts with projects that. And right now, I'm not certain that the county's in agreement with that just yet. But if we can make that step and we capture your vision, then I've got clear marching orders. And I'm pretty good after that. I'm pretty good at following instructions. And I will always be your advocate. So if I can start with what we've got, build upon it from where you want to modify it, tweak it as we're going, because changes occur, then I'm very successful at putting strategic plans in front of you and turning those plans into implementation.
Any follow-up? Okay. What can a government accomplish during an economic downturn when revenue is declining and the city seeks to provide consistent services?
Please read that again.
What can a city government accomplish during an economic downturn when revenue is declining and the city seeks to provide consistent services?
Well, there's no silver bullet that I've come up with, and I've tried it just about everything. If your revenues are outstriping, your expenditures are outstriping your revenues, you're going to have to realign some things. Your costs are going to have to be either mitigated some way or reduced. We have an obligation to stay within the framework of our budget. You've got a favorable tax rate right now. I wouldn't want to deal with that. But you do have some large and long-term debts coming your way. That handwriting's on the wall. So in declining revenues, it is about reconciling your priorities, and that's done in your budget process. And there have been times in Florida's history, recent history, where local officials did not adjust or react to changes that came literally overnight in some cases. And therefore, we went through 2007, 2008, and 2009 with accumulating huge deficits, spending down fund balances, just to try to retain services that were no longer needed or no longer viable. So you have to be able to match up your revenues to your expenditures. That's an absolute. That's law. for me, that's where I get to come up with some of the creative things that I do in budgets to come to elected officials and give you some alternatives. But at the end of the day, you are the board that selects the priorities. And as I said earlier, irrespective where I agreed with your position on that budget priority or not, once y'all vote on it, I treat it just like it was my idea, and I have the expectation of staff to do the same. We're all going to pull on the same end of the rope in good times and bad times.
And the final question that I have, how quickly can you start after an approved contract?
Immediately. With Mrs. Bonner retiring today, and if she's listening, I love you. Our lives just got a little more flexible. I want to look at the contract, if there's one available, and I can make some estimates on it, but I'm pretty flexible. I have on 2 occasions taken jobs as I left the dais from the interview. So as my good luck charm, I brought my other suit. So. Well, it was funny, in my journey in Flagler County, city of Bunnell, the motion went like this. Commissioner Flynn voted, said, I think our candidate just called us idiots. I recommend we hire him. And it was a unanimous decision. I said, what part? Well, I didn't, whoa, you know. Soon. It doesn't take me long. I know what I'm looking for. I think I have a good idea of where y'all are at and what your needs are. I mentioned it in my letter that it's important y'all transition now. I wish Jonathan his best, and I've said this a couple times, be careful what you ask for.
Madam Mayor, that concludes my standardized questions. This is an opportunity for the board to ask any other questions you may have.
Yes, ma'am.
Hey, Mr. Bonner. Tourism is our main focus here in town. Do you have any ideas that you would implement or concerns that you would share with them towards their success?
Both.
Okay.
Well, this is not magic. I mean, y'all have written it. So your goals and objectives as far as looking at transportation, mobility, finding ways for the tourism to be able to access and de-access from our facilities and being in town. Those are, I think, laudable, and I think they're important. A walkable community. Different types of pedestrianscapes are coming your way. I brought pictures with me last time of some walkways that I had seen in one of the proposals y'all had, and they were beautiful. You know, they were wandering. I don't know where you're going to come up with a right-of-way for it yet, but all manageable. I didn't see anything that scared me. The things that you need to be aware of is what I said earlier. All things excellent are as difficult as they are rare. You start tearing up pavement and roads, your phone's going to start ringing proportional to how many roads it's tore up. But it's a necessary part. And like I said earlier, once the citizenry and your tourists see the actual benefit of what you're doing, that you've got a goal, you've got an objective, and you're going to improve things, it becomes much more palatable. I know I'm much more patient with city officials that I have to engage with on a non-professional level. So, and tourism is not going to take, this is going to be your bread and butter. And why not? Why not play the point in the role model of how to make Madeira Beach the destination spot? You still got, they talk about John's Pass and the Boardwalk as a destination spot. Really, you've got a lot more things that are destination spots. So I would advocate you continue what you've been good at and get better at it. You know, the better mousetrap will work.
Okay. I have one more question for
Yes,
you.
ma'am.
Grants are important for a lot of projects that we do here in the city.
Yes, ma'am.
What is your success rate of getting grants? And how many would you say you've gotten, let's say, over the last 3 years?
Grant writing was how I cut my teeth for the city of Wildwood. You know, they got a prison, the largest federal penal institution, but they didn't count on having to build the wells, the wastewater, and the lines that connected the prison back to the city system. So we started writing grants, the very first grants the city got. So I cut my teeth on writing grants. The key to that has been able to tell the story of the organization clearly and how it meets the need. The granting agencies generally want to get rid of the money sooner than later. And if you give them a project, just like with your legislator, and let me digress, there is a legislative component, both at the regional, the state, and the federal level, that I think Madeira Beach is primed for. Those folks are wanting to help. They want to do good products. They want to see successes. So my experience has been I've used the best lobbyists have been the elected officials that I've set up. When I say, you may be good at one thing, and we'll send you for this grant or this legislative support, the board says, okay, this is the best one to send. That has been far more successful. Yes, I wrote pretty well. I told the story pretty well. Did the finances pretty well on it. I think I'm well over $140 million in grant under my authorship. I've done over $100 million in implementation, and they've been across the full spectrum of the grants that are available at the state and federal level and private level. A grant I wrote, this is old news, a grant I wrote a long time ago was for our police department, and it was the Claude Pepper Award from the League of Cities. You know, not many people remembered that name, not many people know how significant it was, but to the two commissioners that went to accept the award for that, they were his contemporaries. And so it's, you know, it was emotional, and what an honor. Claude Pepper Award for a small city like the city of Wildwood. You know. I've done recreational facilities, marinas, airports, city halls, historical structures, large water, regional water and wastewater plants, reuse plants, substantial stormwater projects that were related to reuse eventually, electrical distribution. So I've been very fortunate. But be careful what you go for with a grant. Now I'm going to tell you a bad experience. Henry County, in 2013, I wrote them a paper about the things they were going to be doing with a new funding source called SPLOST, Special Purpose Local Sales Tax Option. And that was going to let them build fire departments and park facilities. Well, as soon as the money started coming in for that extra tax, I want a park, I want a firehouse, and all of a sudden we're building 5 firehouses and about 20 parks. Well, in 2015, when they actually hired me, they did not count on, you want the fire department to have fire trucks? You want them to be staffed? We forgot all about that component. So when you're going after a grant, I make certain that we know how to look at it, not that it's just going to be giving you the money and you build it, that you account for what's going in it. And wait for it, the sustainability component that you're going to be able to replace and repair and maintain that facility through time. And it's amazing how limited that view is shared with a lot of local governments in our country. So I have an extensive grant background, and I have no compliance issues on any grant I've ever written or have ever implemented. The largest small disadvantaged community grant the state has ever given, I wrote every syllable of it for the city of Dunedin, Florida, as their public service director. So that's a long suit, but it's not my best attributes.
Thank you.
I have some questions. I have a couple.
I
The first
figured
one
that.
was that grant thing, but I think you kind of got that clear to me because I've always felt that grants are very, very good, but they also have strings attached, so many of them. So you kind of re-clarified that. But I just wanted to ask you, Lyndon, what your policy is, what your feeling is about individual commissioners going directly to, for instance, department heads or employees on matters of projects, compliance, conflicts. Is it your feeling that the commissioners should come to you direct and then let you disseminate that power? How do you feel about that?
I've never had that problem.
Pardon?
I've never had that problem, said with a
Okay, well,
granddad.
what's been your secret?
Well, let me just try this. Your charter is explicit as what the duties are to the city manager and what the roles are for the commission. I said earlier, and I stand by it, it has caused me more pain and more happiness. I work at the pleasure of the board. I only respond to the majority vote of the board. Once y'all enact a piece of legislation by vote, again, that's my brand-new baby, and I'm going to implement it that way. An individual commissioner going to give instructions or directions to an employee is foul of the charter and certainly different than the city manager commission form of government. Now, I said all that to lead you to this. The city manager is pretty busy. I'm out and about. If you have a question, I don't want a commissioner to be waiting on the city manager. I want my department heads to be able to engage with staff. I want them to be able to answer your questions right then, but I have an expectations with that. When there's that engagement, so I don't waste your time the next time I see you, that department head says, oh, that commissioner called and they had a question about this. I gave them the answer. I'm getting them information. That way I don't leave that loop closed, but there can't be any instructions. If it's an emergency, I have to give the latitude to my department heads to be able to do what needs to be done. They'll be able to predict me just as quick as you can, very soon. But it's against the charter. I don't advocate it. When a commissioner steps out of bounds to that, understand that when you're out of the scope of a seated commissioner per your charter, you take on the personal liability for the decisions you give. So I am very strong in terms of being able to get back and answer all of your questions and give you the answers as best as I can produce them. But I don't want, and I have seen advantages, I don't want my staff not to be able to talk to the elected officials. That is important to me, that they know how to communicate. I get your messages quicker. You get a response sooner. And I think it shows a different synergy that when a department head can come to you and give you the information that you've asked for more timely than waiting for the silver tower to call you back.
Okay, as long as you're not circumvented, as long as you're kept in the loop at all times, right? And that's cool.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay,
There's another problem, I will tell you, though. I'm pretty hard about this.
good, okay.
The issue, if there is a subreption where a commissioner came in and the staff did it, I don't have any say-so about the commissioner's activities. I can report it, but that employee has to deal with me in a different format then, because my instructions are pretty darn clear. I'm responsible for your work. I'm very forgiving. You know, I make more mistakes in a day than most people make in a lifetime on some of the things I do as a city manager. But at the end of the day, I'm responsible for their work, so I expect them to be accountable for their work and recognized for their work. So, no, I don't want y'all to leave here with the impression that I want or will authorize or approve y'all to give instructions to staff. That is my job. I'm responsible for them, and I'll take that responsibility. I'm trying to just introduce that part where there is communications, and I think you talking to staff does a lot of good. You know, that lets them know I trust them to give out the right information. And it makes, it just reaches to a different level that I don't think, and I've been in some big organizations, and I've never been in an organization where that didn't make a positive difference.
Can I ask you one more question, too?
Yes, ma'am.
About meetings with individual commissioners prior to workshop meetings or city commission meetings or special meetings, I have found that to be quite helpful for the city manager to meet with individual commissioners to get their kind of perspective on it, or to ask, just to get their perspective on it. How do you feel about that? In the past, have you done that type of thing with your commissions in the past, met with them individually, so that, you know, nothing is wrong with the sunshine or anything like that, just to kind of gain their perspective on things, especially in the beginning as a new city manager, I think?
The answer is yes. And then yes, but it's two ways. It's not only me get their perspective on it, it's about how we develop the agenda. You know, are there some things there that you have questions about? And as gifted as I know each one of you are, there are probably going to be some things that the department heads are going to bring up that are foreign to you. So I like the idea of being able to have that, pardon my words, skull session, or we can get your questions answered and maybe expedite some of the meeting process and maybe make you a better commissioner by being betterly informed. And I very well may call the department head back in. And, for example, if we needed a conflict box on 131st Street, why? What is a conflict box? Well, we could spend a lot of time and a lot of money on an engineer to come tell you, other than it's an irregular box that's custom built for a certain application, and that takes care of that. But I think it's two-way there. Yes, I want your perspective, but that's further down the road. I want the perspectives long before I start working on the agenda. When I get to the agenda part and I get to meet with you individually, and it is essential that we do that. It's essential because of the rapport that we have to have. I said you'll be able to predict me very quickly, but we're going to go through some rough times, and I need to have that strong background so that when we do hit a bump, that we have enough relationship behind us that we can go on to the next thing and not get caught up in a trivial pursuit or the things that a lot of political type decisions are made. I don't do well with that, and I don't want to advocate that, and I'm not going to bring that to y'all. So it's two-way for us. I certainly want to get y'all's perspective, and I certainly want to try to demystify some of the things we're doing in local government to our citizenry and you. Y'all deserve that.
Ask one more question. It's a quick one.
I've got nowhere to
When
go.
I was looking at, well, it's not really a quick one, but when I was reading this, and I think it's also in our job description, I know it's something our current city manager has done, and I've gotten lots of good feedback on it. It's with regards to a city manager newsletter. Do you like to do those?
It gives me a chance to talk about the good work that staff has done. So I don't pen every syllable of it. I want my staff reports that you get to see, what have we done this week, or what have we done since the last time we met. And having a concise layout about what we've done and who did it, it lets the department heads be recognized for the good work they've done. It shows progress to the citizenry. It pays my salary. And that's important to me, because if that's working, then they're probably not going to be calling you as many problems that I've created. But I think it's a wonderful tool, and it's inexpensive, and it has great results. Does it take effort? Yeah, it does. But
Do you like to do it on a monthly basis? Monthly?
at least.
Okay.
I think the report
Just
for
curious.
y'all is actually more timely. There'll be some things that you will get that you'd like to add to the newsletter that would be beneficial. Well, we didn't think about that. Oh, great. The exchange that we talked about just a minute ago, it's that, getting your perspective. It's a very viable tool that costs literally nothing to do. Putting it on the website makes it even easier to get to, and people can call and give us good ideas or suggestions about the next thing. We'll learn from it. But why not? Why not kind of raise up our staff and have an opportunity for them to toot the horn that they're doing and what the city's doing? I think that's good promotional, and I think it's good fact-finding and delivery.
Mr. Bonner.
Yes, sir.
How are you, my man?
well.
You mind if I call you Lyndon?
Be
That
fine, thank
Okay,
you.
great. Personally, I like a lot of things that you said. I like your financial background, and the organizational thing really hits home with me. And I also send a very big check to your alma mater every semester, and I've got one more year left to do that, so we're good.
We're very grateful for that.
I appreciate it, yeah, I'm sure you do. Anyway, couple quick things, and only take a minute. One of the things our voters voted on for this job is an ICMA requirement. And I'm sure you're familiar with Tenet 4. You'll be our third city manager in the last 2 years. My biggest question is what we need here is stability. And I'm going to refer to your background, and I see that you've jumped around a little bit, and I know that that's a little bit of the nature of the beast. Can we count on you sticking around?
Yes, sir.
That's all I need. Okay. The second thing, we are in a little turmoil financially in my eyes, okay? I think we've really got excessive unwatched city spending right now that we have to get our hands around. Commissioner Hodges and Commissioner Weinstein both hit on this. We haven't haven't done a very good job of getting grants. I think that we've left a lot of money on the table, and I think that's somewhere we have to go. And frankly, I think we're a little ahead of our skis. I definitely voted for these new $15 to $20 million worth of new projects. But I think when I asked, how are we going to pay for it? One answer was, oh, we have a very robust fund it's coming out of, and, oh, we're going to get a loan. Well, I'm not a dummy. I've got probably a better financial background than most people on our staff, but we got to know how to pay for that. So I would really like somebody that can really grab a hold of this and map out to because I mean, this is going to be a big issue come budget time when we're talking about increases in millage rates. We have to show our community that, okay, this is where your money's going, this is what's happening, and this is why it's happening. I think it's a great idea because roads haven't been done here, in some cases, 35, 40 years. We're kind of being tasked with it, so we got to take care of that. But we got to justify that millage increase, and I think that's an important thing too. But my last thing, and I think this is most important, and I think we kind of skipped around on this during the question and answers, not that you weren't really asked about it. We had a morale problem here with our staff. We have, and I'm not sure if you know this, but we just got a salary survey that showed we have a 90% turnover in the past 2 years, and that's not counting 2019. So we really haven't meshed together a staff very well, and a lot of that has to do with a little revolving door at the leadership position. What is your strategy with staff? How do you get a staff to come together if there's a morale issue?
There were several questions there that I heard.
Yeah, no, I'm sorry, I run around a little bit.
Well, let's take it from something I mentioned earlier. Morale is a currency, if you will. It's so important, and it starts with us. We're the most visible thing that your employees are going to see. They're going to see y'all in the newspaper and some of the projects that are being advanced and what occurs in the meeting. For me, when I turn away from the dais and I'm looking at staff, it is a peer-to-peer type. Yes, it says city manager on the door or the county administrator. It says that on the door. But I hope I never get an organization where I can't talk to each and every employee. That maybe not on a first name basis, but if I see you in the hall, I'm going to say hello. I think it starts with something that's just that simple. I have a great respect for public service. And these folks provide a public service. I think that for the most part, people who are in public service are going to do a good job because they want to do a good job. What I have found in my experience is that good intended employees have been stifled, stepped on, intimidated, not valued. The last one is the one that has killed morale the most. You know, we're not going to listen to you, and that's a slam in the door. I don't care what kind of relationship you have. I don't want that. And that's not how I work. I'm not patting myself on the back, but there's been a lot of good footwork that's in my resume that's easily verified. Not a single bit of it can I take credit for individually. It is the folks I've had the pleasure to serve with, and I think I shared with y'all, I've got folks now who are in House of Representatives that work for us in city management or county management. I've got a lot of staff that are in city management and county manager's position. It's astounding how you can make a difference just by talking with someone. You got a problem? Yeah. One of the things, not related directly to morale, but just to show staff in the mindset I have. The county has a huge problem with new kinds of drugs. You see how much Narcan we're purchasing. You know that it's not in Madeira Beach, or it's just county prevalent. I want your insurance company, and I have worked with your exact insurance company to have a better employee assistance program where HR can work independent of me, because everything I do is a public record. And if I do have an alcohol or I do have a drug dependency employee, can I get them some help through our insurance? Yes. But that does not come through me. That will come through the HR department or the attorney's office. One, it gives them the anonymity. However, you come back with a drug positive test after an accident and I wasn't aware of it, It's pretty straightforward, my actions. You can predict me pretty well. If an employee lies to me or steals from the city, you can pretty well predict me. But if
Thank
they
you,
do
Lynn.
good work, they're going to be recognized for it. And they very well may be right sitting beside us when we're doing our budget to be able to explain some things that you may have a question on that somebody else may have a question on. And I want the experts there to be recognized for what they are. Yes, sir.
Thank you.
I have a few questions. First of all, I would like to correct something. I don't believe our turnover is 90%. I don't know what the number is, but it's not 90%. How do you build consensus among groups with different objectives and agendas? That's not a
Well,
funny
let's
question.
see here. Would that be competing interest we're talking about? Listening is the first part. You know, even someone who's coming and banging on the desk about this or that, just the fact that you listen to them and then we're able to pair it back, am I understanding it correct? That goes a long way to diffusing the problem. There may not be anything I can do about it. It may be a statutory requirement, or it may be beyond the city's jurisdiction. But at least being able to share with them that, okay, I heard you, this is understanding, and then I'm very frank about, okay, not in our city. I see the city limits are over there. You're in an unincorporated part of the county. But here's somebody you can call. You know, I would fix it with that. But it is a balancing act, and I think I've ended up saying this several times today. In a transitioning organization, a transitional government, you're going to have to manage, and it takes a different type of cooperation and collaboration to manage those types of competing interests. It's doable. Sometimes it doesn't feel that way, but I try to stay composed. I may have to take a walk around the block. I may have to go ask some questions of people a lot smarter than me, and the world is full of them. This is how I'm seeing it. What am I overlooking here? And I do that for y'all. I do that for staff. And I believe that's how we're going to be successful in managing some of the competing interests we have here. You know, there are going to be those who just come in and it's absolutely my way and that's it. Well, I told you I'm going to be the city's advocate. And I can be a pretty forceful advocate myself. You know, no, sir, no, ma'am. This is what the rules say, and unless the commissioners change this rule, this is what it's going to be. Love, Lyndon.
And one more question.
Yes, ma'am.
What is the biggest mistake you've made, and what have you learned from it?
I've got a bunch of them. That's one thing about this University of Public Administration is that the hard knocks are there. On a professional level for local government, I wish I'd have done something different. It's going to be a little tough. I had a mayor that I was very fond of. I really thought that George was going to be in the House of Representatives. I really thought that he had a place in local government beyond North Miami Beach. He was committed, he was strong, brilliant, quick study, but he had other frailties, and he was arrested, and broke my heart. I wished I could have seen something, or I had said something at a restaurant. We were sharing a table with some other folks at the table. Now, that's part of my deposition that I gave. So I got my heart broke, but I would take a different course of action, looking back at that and saying, no, what the hell are you thinking? And I did.
Thank you.
All right. Any other questions from the board? All right, Mr. Bonner, we appreciate the time, and thank you for your response.
Best of luck to you, Mr. City Manager,
Thank you, sir.
and to you, Council.